Hello everyone. Today I will discuss test administration and analysis in nursing education. These principles apply to all test administration and analysis, but my presentation will focus on nursing education. This presentation will show how faculty can promote test integrity through standardized administration procedures and how post-exam analysis helps determine whether an exam adequately measures student learning. I will review the statistical methods used in test analysis, and I also review the strategies for the student test review post-exam, including the advantages and disadvantages of each approach. Let's review the presentation objectives. I will review the best practice for test administration integrity, explain the methods of test analysis, including KR20, evaluate reliability and validity of exams, compare approaches to student test reviews. Effective testing is not just about writing exam questions. Faculty also needs to ensure that exams are fair, secure, and consistent. An analysis is necessary after each exam to determine whether the items performed as expected and whether the test was a good representation of student learning. Analysis guides revision of the weak questions and also future exams. Together, administration and analysis strengthen both the credibility of the exam and the quality of the student evaluation. Integrity starts with the testing environment. The testing environment should be arranged to reduce opportunities for cheating and support concentration. Students should be spaced adequately apart as much as possible. You could use assigned seating where appropriate. The room also needs to be quiet and free of unnecessary distractions so the testing conditions can be standard for all students. These practices directly support test integrity. The faculty also needs to have clear visibility of all students in the room to prevent misconduct during the examination. Communication is also key. Faculty should clearly communicate what students may bring with them into the exam room and what may remain at the desk during the exam. Personal belongings, such as book bags, books, notes, cell phones, smartwatches, should be placed in a designated area away from the student. They should also be turned off, just to avoid distraction during the exam. Only material approved for the exam, such as pencils, pens, or a calculator if needed, or scratch paper, should be allowed to remain accessible. Clear expectations reduce confusion and create a secure testing environment. Standardized material reduces variability and supports test integrity. Accommodations. Students with approved accommodations must receive them in a way that preserves fairness and confidentiality. These accommodations may be that they need extended time, provide the time as approved by the accommodation plan, or reduced distraction environment, offer a reduced distraction testing space where inappropriate, or they may need assistive technology, allow approved tools and technology to support student access. These supports do not lower standards. They allow the students to demonstrate their learning in a more fair environment. Confidentiality is also so important. You need to protect the student's privacy and handle these accommodations discreetly. Faculty should ensure that accommodating testing follows clear procedures so that integrity and standardizations are maintained. These accommodations need to be implemented consistently according to policy. They should support the students in demonstrating the knowledge without altering any exam standards, and they should maintain the integrity of the standard conditions exams. Once again, the accommodations do not lower the standards. They just offer a fair demonstration of the student's learning. How do these practices support test integrity? When we take these steps, we minimize the chance of academic dishonesty. We limit the opportunities for cheating. We promote fairness. The seating arrangements, the control of personal belongings, the approved testing materials, and accommodation procedures all work together to reduce misconduct risk and promote fairness. This, removing all temptations, keeps the focus on the exam. When testing conditions are standardized, it leads to trust in the test results and the process. Faculty can have greater confidence that the test exam reflects actual student knowledge rather than environmental inconsistencies or security problems. They'll know the test results are legit. It's about protecting the integrity of not just the test, but of the nursing program itself. This is why it's so important. Let's look at test analysis. Test analysis is done after the exam is completed. If it's computerized, the data can be exported from the software. Most softwares spit out the data in every way that you could possibly need, but most important are the ones that are looked at, which is each question or test item should be examined. Faculty should review the overall test performance, including average scores and score distribution. This process helps identify the strong items and the weak items and questions that may need to be revised or removed before the exam is used again. Several statistical methods are commonly used in test analysis. Like I said, the test software provides these results. Score distribution is the first one we look at. It shows whether or not the exam was too easy or too hard or on the money for accessing the material that was presented. Item difficulty looks at how many students answered a question correctly. This data shows the difficulty index, which is called the p-value. This represents the percentage of what students got the question correct. That value is from 0 to 1, with 0 being too difficult and 1 being too easy. The goal is for the question to score somewhere in the middle. The next item is item discrimination. This shows whether the question distinguishes the students who understand the material from the students who don't. This shows that if the student did well overall in the whole test and also got that question right, but if the discrimination is poor, then that means that it's not a good question. So good discrimination means the student who did well in the test also got that question right, but is poor if they did not get those questions right. That means if it's poor discrimination, it is poorly written or confusing. There's also distractor analysis. Distractor analysis looks at whether they serve their purpose. They determine whether incorrect answer choices are functioning effectively. Distractor answers are important because they are close to the correct answer, so they eliminate guessing. Let's look at reliability, how reliability testing evaluates whether the exam items work together consistently as a measure of student learning. Reliability measures the consistency of test scores. It measures how consistent or similar the exam scores are if the same questions are used. If the exam scores remain consistent over time, that is a reliable exam. KR20 or Cooter-Richardson formula is a reliability statistic used for exams with right-wrong test items, such as multiple choice exams, which are scored as either correct or incorrect. It measures the consistency, which estimates how well the items work together as a set. A higher K20 generally suggests that the exam is more consistent in measuring the same underlying construct, while a lower value indicates the items are not functioning cohesively. The factors that affect the K-20 is the difficulty of the test, the number of the questions, the number of questions that do not discriminate or negatively discriminate and spread the students' scores. Reliability and validity are essential in test evaluation. Reliability asks whether the exam produces consistent measurement, while validity asks whether the exam is actually measuring what it's supposed to be measuring. At the item level, faculty should examine wording, clarity, and alignment with learning objectives. At the exam level, the overall test should reflect course content, learning outcomes, and the intended level of student performance. Reliability and validity are closely related. K-20 gives us evidence of reliability by showing that test items are consistent. If a test is not reliable, it cannot be valid. In other words, we cannot take a test that is measuring the right thing if it's not measuring consistently. Validity measures whether the test measured what it was intended to measure. Content validity measures if the test blueprint aligned with the course objectives. Construct validity looks at if critical thinking was measured. Face validity is a surface check that looks at whether the measured target concepts were met. This is assessed by stakeholders. This is useful for new questions that don't have statistical data. Reliability and validity are closely related. K-20 gives us evidence of reliability by showing that each of the test items are consistent. If a test is not reliable, it cannot be valid. In other words, we cannot say a test is measuring the right thing if it's not even measuring consistently. After the exam, faculty may use different approaches for the student test review. Some of these approaches are a whole class review, which can address common misunderstandings effectively, a small group review, which encourages discussion and concept clarification, or individual review, which requires appointments to allow the students to get personalized feedback. Faculty may also allow students to review the exam in a secure setting without distributing test copies, which protects the item's security while supporting student learning. This allows the test to be used again. All of these methods have benefits and limitations. The whole class review, the advantages are it's efficient, addresses common errors quickly, but the disadvantage is it may expose test items, and then now you need a new test. Small group review, the advantage of interaction and discussion, so that can be more focused on, the discussion can be more focused, whereas the disadvantage is it's less standardized. Individual review, the advantage is a personalized feedback. The disadvantage is time intensive, might not be practical if you have a large student class. Secure review, the advantages are protect the test bank so the test can be used again. The disadvantage is it may limit detailed feedback. Best practice includes providing rationale, not just the correct answer. So it's important to provide the rationale for the answers, not just the answer. That's considered a best practice. In summary, test administration begins with standardized procedures that protect fairness, security, and consistency. Test analysis helps faculty evaluate whether the exam items performed well and whether the exam was of sound measure and of student learning. Concepts such as item difficulty, discrimination, KR20, reliability, and validity are important in guiding examination revisions. Finally, thorough test review practices can support student learning by preserving test integrity. Thank you for your time. Hope this was helpful.